The voice of God in the shepherd of Hermas, Similitudes 3. Third similitude. As in winter green trees cannot be distinguished from withered, so in this world neither can the just from the unjust. He showed me many trees having no leaves, but withered, as it seemed to me. For all were alike, and he said to me, "Do you see those trees?" "I see, sir," I replied, "that all are alike and withered." He answered me and said, "These trees which you see are those who dwell in this world." "Why then, sir," I said, "are they withered as it were and alike?" Because, he said, "Neither are the righteous manifest in this life nor sinners, but they are alike. For this life is a winter to the righteous, and they do not manifest themselves, because they dwell with sinners. For as in winter trees that have cast their leaves are alike, and it is not seen which are dead and which are living, so in this world neither do the righteous show themselves for sinners, that are all alike unto another." Fourth similitude. As in summer living trees are distinguished from withered by fruit and living leaves, so in the world to come the just differ from the unjust in happiness. He showed me again many trees, some budding, others withered. He said to me, "Do you see these trees?" "I see, sir," I replied, "some putting forth buds and others withered." "Those," he said, "which are budding are the righteous who are to live in the world to come. For the coming world is the summer of the righteous, but the winter of sinners. When therefore the mercy of the Lord shines forth, then shall they be made manifest to who are the servants of God, and all men shall be made manifest. For as in summer the fruits of each individual tree appear, and it is asserted of what sort they are, so also the fruits of the righteous shall be manifest, and all who have been fruitful in that world shall be made known. But the heathen and sinners, like the withered trees which you saw, will be found to be those who have been withered and unfruitful in that world, and shall be burnt as wood and made manifest, because their actions were evil during their lives. For the sinners shall be consumed because they sinned and did not repent, and the heathen shall be burned because they knew not him who created them. Do you therefore bear fruit, that in that summer your fruit may be known, and refrain from much business, and you will never sin. For they who are occupied with much business commit also many sins, being distracted about their affairs, and not at all serving their Lord. How then," he continued, "can such a one ask and obtain anything from the Lord, if he serve him not? They who serve him shall obtain their requests, but they who serve him not shall receive nothing. And in the performance even of a single action a man can serve the Lord, for his mind will not be perverted from the Lord, but he will serve him having a pure mind. If therefore you do these things, you shall be able to bear fruit for the life to come. And everyone who will do these things shall bear fruit." Fifth similitude. Of true fasting and its reward, also of purity of body. Chapter 1. While fasting and sitting on a certain mountain and giving thanks to the Lord for all his dealings with me, I see the shepherd sitting down beside me, and saying, "Why have you come hither early this morning?" "Because, sir," I answered, "I have a station." "What is a station?" he asked. "I am fasting, sir," I replied. "What is this fasting," he continued, "which you are observing?" "As I have been accustomed, sir," I replied, "so I fast." "Do you not know," he says, "how to fast unto the Lord? This useless fasting which you observe to him is of no value." "Why, sir," I answered, "do you say this?" "I say to you," he continued, "that the fasting which you think you observe is not a fasting. But I will teach you what is a full and acceptable fasting to the Lord. Listen," he continued. "God does not desire such an empty fasting. For fasting to God in this way you will do nothing for a righteous life, but offer to a God a fasting of the following kind. Do no evil in your life, and serve the Lord with a pure heart. Keep his commandments, walking in his precepts, and let no evil desire arise in your heart, and believe in God. If you do these things and fear him, and abstain from every evil thing, you will live unto God. And if you do these things, you will keep a great fast, and one acceptable before God." Chapter 2. Hear the similitude which I am about to narrate to you relative to a fasting. A certain man had a field and many slaves, and he planted a certain part of the field with a vineyard, and selecting a faithful and beloved and much valued slave, he called him to him and said, "Take this vineyard which I have planted, and stake it until I come, and do nothing else to the vineyard, and attend to this order of mine, and you shall receive your freedom from me." And the master of the slave departed to a foreign country. And when he was gone, the slave took and staked the vineyard, and when he had finished the staking of the vines, he saw that the vineyard was full of weeds. Then he reflected, saying, "I have kept this order of my master. I will dig up the rest of this vineyard, and it will be more beautiful and dug up, and being free of weeds. It will yield more fruit, not being choked by them." He took therefore and dug up the vineyard, and rooted out all the weeds that were in it. And that vineyard became very beautiful and fruitful, having no weeds to choke it. And after a certain time the master of the slave and of the field returned, and entered into the vineyard. And seeing that the vines were suitably supported on stakes, and the ground moreover dug up, and all the weeds rooted out, and the vines fruitful, he was greatly pleased with the work of his slave. And calling his beloved son, who was his heir, and his friends, who were his counselors, he told them what orders he had given his slave, and what he had found performed. And they rejoiced along with the slave at the testimony which his master bore to him. And he said to them, "I promised the slave freedom if he obeyed the command which I gave him. And he has kept my command, and done besides a good work to the vineyard, and has pleased me exceedingly. In return, therefore, for the work which he has done, I wish to make him co-heir with my son, because having good thoughts he did not neglect them, but carried them out." With this resolution of the master, his son and friends were well pleased, that the slave should be co-heir with the son. After a few days the master made a feast, and sent to his slave many dishes from his table. And the slave received the dishes that were sent him from his master, took of them what was sufficient for himself, and distributed the rest among his fellow slaves. And his fellow slaves rejoiced to receive the dishes, and began to pray for him that he might find still greater favor with his master for having so treated them. His master heard all these things that were done, and was greatly pleased with his conduct. And the master, again calling together his friends and his son, reported them the slave's proceeding with regard to the dishes which he had sent him. And they were still more satisfied that the slave should become co-heir with his son. Chapter 3. I said to him, "Sir, I do not see the meaning of these similitudes, nor am I able to comprehend them unless you explain them to me." "I will explain them all to you," he said, "and whatever I shall mention in the course of our conversations I will show you. Keep the commandments of the Lord, and you will be approved, and inscribed among the number of those who observe his commandments. And if you do any good beyond what is commanded by God, you will gain for yourself more abundant glory, and will be more honored by God than you would otherwise be. If therefore in keeping the commandments of God you do in addition these services, you will have joy if you observe them according to my command." I said to him, "Sir, whatever you enjoin upon me I will observe, for I know that you are with me." "I will be with you," he replied, "because you have such a desire for doing good, and I will be with all those," he added, "who have such a desire. This fasting," he continued, is very good, providing the commandments of the Lord are be observed. Thus then you shall observe the fasting which you intend to keep. First of all, be on your guard against every evil word and every evil desire, and purify your heart from all the vanities of this world. If you guard against these things, your fasting will be perfect, and you will do also as follows. Having fulfilled what is written, and on the day on which you fast you will taste nothing but bread and water, and having record upon the price of the dishes of that day which you intended to have eaten, you will give it to a widow, or an orphan, or to some person in want, and thus you will exhibit humility of mind, so that he who has received benefit from your humility may fill his soul and pray for you to the Lord. If you observe fasting, as I have commanded you, your sacrifice will be acceptable to God, and this fasting will be written down, and the service thus performed is noble and sacred, and acceptable to the Lord. These things therefore shall you thus observe with your children and all your house, and in observing them you will be blessed. And as many as hear these words and observe them shall be blessed, and whatsoever they ask of the Lord they shall receive.